This is, I think she said this is an essay, which means it's a true story, it really happened. And actually, interestingly, I wrote the majority of the story as it was happening. So, I won't tell you what the it is. Here's just figure it out. It's called Bunker. Everything still worked that morning, 1 week into the new year. The automated elevator sang, 7th floor, good morning. Key card opened the office door. Halogen yet buzzed like a life support system. Beside the copy machine sat a dumpster, old and dented, scratched with graffiti. It would have looked at home in a refuse-swept alley running behind a row of cheap storefronts, an emblem of decay normally exorcised from any modern workspace. Someone must have carted it in earlier that morning. It was, as yet, I could not help but note, empty. People were huddled in their offices, whispering. They glanced up with intense faces, returned to private conversation. This is it, I knew. It's happening today. The fax machine was warm, filled with copyright forms to be scanned, processed, filed, forgotten. My computer turned on, the password worked, the inbox filled up with panicked emails from production editors wanting to know where the next issue's lineup was, authors demanding to know what had happened to their manuscripts, notes about upcoming meetings, projects which needed completing. But all I could think about was the dumpster. How would it come? An email, a phone call, a trusted friend stopping by. Beyond the walls of my cubicle, a voice said, Grace, may I see you in my office, please? Grace was a stalwart of organized chaos, surrounded by stacks of journals, calendars, catalogs, office supplies. If the question began with, how should I, or who do I ask about, the answer was always, ask Grace. So I heard Grace answer, sure, followed by the slow creak of her chair, and a moment later the office door shut. Everything that happens beyond my cubicle is faceless and without form. Every day there are private conversations, conference calls, inner machinations, corporate politics. I hear without listening. They don't know my name. They don't even know I'm there. Usually I can drown it out, but on this day I found that I'm hyper-aware. Diane, may I see you in my office, please? Diane, my God, she's the one who hired me. She'd been in the business nearly as long as I'd been alive. I caught a glimpse of her as she passed my cubicle on the way to the back office. She looked afraid, but also professionally afraid. The office door shut. All morning that was how it went. Each time they were led past my cubicle, dead man walking style. The only one who stopped was Carl. He'd always been my favorite publisher. He has one kid and another kid on the way. He stood at my cubicle and announced, well, I got the email, all giddy with fear. He told me everything he knew. It's not just Philadelphia, he said. It's Baltimore. It's New York. He gave me names. The list kept going. That afternoon I got a sandwich from the Wawa down on Walnut Street, and the man who took my money was in his 50s, well-groomed, well-spoken. I could easily imagine him wearing a suit and tie, sitting in on board meetings. Perhaps a month ago he did. Outside the entrance, a woman sat on the steps. No way to get around her. The layers of jacket and sweatshirt, coat and sweater made her twice as large. She demanded $1, real indignant. And what will I do when it's me who has to beg, I wondered. There's a million end-of-the-world scenarios to choose from. Nuclear annihilation is the big one, of course. Humanity forced into underground bunkers. I read all those books, watched all those movies, but maybe we're all just meant to slowly go mad, slowly starve, slowly hoard until everything is depleted. But on the other hand, why not imagine more utopian scenarios, wherein we turn our parks into massive gardens, feeding our families with all the food we'll grow. We'll use those green slips of paper, what in an earlier era had been known as money, to wallpaper our eco-friendly cob homes. We'll live in socialist collectives, contributing equally and singing hosannas to the God who, in his tender mercy, allowed those corporate towers of Babel to crumble so that a new world would rise based on love. Either that or cannibalism, hard to say. 7th floor, good morning. The dumpster by the copy machine was half full. Mounds of textbooks, folders, medical journals, pens, pencils, staplers, all thrown together in a bubbling cauldron, a button-down Oxford witch's brew. People were no longer huddled, no longer whispering. They talked openly. We stood around the proverbial water cooler, and for 2 years I passed some of them in the halls and never known their names. But a demonic presence had been lifted. We could all feel it. "It's over, that's what I heard," said one. "They're done. We're safe." Later that afternoon, Judy and I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I hadn't smoked in 6 months. I called my wife and told her I was fine. It was over. We were safe. The relief in her voice made me want to cry. Many phone calls had been made that day which had not brought relief. My friend Saul once gave me some advice. "Yeah, you should be fine, John, at your level," he said. "Just don't get promoted." Blessed are we, the underachievers.